Next morning, everyone. Meet you again on sharing on important health topics sponsored by Max International. And tonight's topic is glutathione and viral infections. Okay, let's talk about glutathione first before we talk about its role in viral infections. So glutathione, and the short chemical formula is GSH, which refers to the active form or reduced form of glutathione. It is a tripeptide made of glutamic acid, cysteine, and glycine, has many functions crucial for health. And when you look at the molecule, the G refers to the bulk of the molecule, which is the bulk of the 3 amino acids, and the SH refers to the thiol or sulfhydryl group, which is the lone sulfur atom attached to the hydrogen atom, which is actually part of cysteine, which is the middle amino acid. Okay, one of the major functions of glutathione is the most important intracellular antioxidant. That's why it's been called the master antioxidant from the beginning when its importance was noticed. It's also a powerful and versatile anti-inflammatory agent, important immune booster and modulator, powerful and versatile detoxifying agent, and a very important signaling molecule to many cell systems, plus many, many more functions. But tonight, we'll zoom mostly on its immune booster modulator function. So that's how it plays its role in fighting viruses. Okay. So our immune system is not only there to fight viruses, but also many, many other invaders. And also to fight toxins as well, and also cancer cells and carcinogens. It also destroys and removes dead and dying mutant and foreign cells, and also remove tissue debris. So how does glutathione help the immune system? It does so in 2 ways. It enables the optimal functioning of the immune cells, right? So it empowers the immune cells to work properly. Secondly, it protects these immune cells through its antioxidant and antitoxin mechanisms, okay? So they are separate but beneficial for the immune cells in both ways. So with that, you get optimum immune function that gives the best defense against viruses and other invaders. And glutathione fine-tunes the immune system that gives precision defense against infections, including viral infections. So this fine-tuning applies also to other infections, and this may help prevent infection or reduce severity of the infection. The importance of glutathione is such that almost 25 years ago, it was already known that the intracellular glutathione level can predict the prognosis of HIV-1 infections. And this may apply to other viruses too. Okay, so 25 years ago, it was already known that low glutathione levels will give bad prognosis and high glutathione levels will give good prognosis in HIV infections. It is also known that glutathione may reduce viral infections, and this is known for now coming close to 30 years. For example, in herpes simplex virus 1 infection, if you have the infection, then there's a drastic reduction in your glutathione levels because glutathione is used up in trying to fight the virus. When you add glutathione, the viral replication is reduced by 99%. Okay. Likewise with influenza virus and another virus called the Sendai virus. So it has long been known that glutathione will reduce, almost stop the viral replication. Secondly, glutathione may reduce the virulence of the virus. Okay, so some studies showed that oxidative stress, that is having excess free radicals in the host, can cause infecting viruses to become more virulent, right? More virulent means more harm. Most probably because oxidative stress equals weakened immune defense. So glutathione is crucial in preventing this because It is the most important antioxidant for our cells and prevents oxidative stress. Okay, so remember on the immune cells, glutathione empower the immune cells to work properly and also protect the immune cells from toxins and other damaging factors. On the viruses, the glutathione prevents replication and reduces virulence, right? So on both aspects, glutathione can benefit us. Right, a little bit about our immunity. We have two forms of immunity, the innate or non-specific immunity, which is the defense system with which we were born. It protects us against all antigens, and innate immunity involves barriers that keep harmful materials from entering our body, and these barriers form the first line of defense in the immune response. And then we have the adaptive immunity, which involves the specialized immune cells and antibodies that attack and destroy foreign invaders and are able to prevent disease in the future by remembering what those substances look like and mounting a new immune response. Okay, so everyone by now knows about antibodies, so that's part of the adaptive immunity. Okay, so if we look in this diagram, the innate immunity, part of the innate immunity also involves our immune cells. Okay, but the adaptive immunity is fully run by the immune cells, and you have the cellular component and the humoral component. So it's important to have some idea of how our immune system works. Okay, in the beginning, Vanny listed almost 20 different viral infections, and there are probably 200 more types of viral infections that we may have to face. But in general, the role of glutathione spans across the entire gamut or range of viral infections. And we go into detail how glutathione empowers our immune systems to fight viruses, no matter what type of virus. Okay. So what happens after the viruses come into the body and infect our cells? So you see from the top, the virus come in, okay, and then gets into the cell. So the first component of our immune system is called the antigen presenting cell. It is a specialized macrophage, right? The APC is specialized macrophage, right? So then it will receive signals and will go towards the infected cells, and then it will then engulf the cell, okay? One signal it receives is because the infected cells will have the viral component, the antigens on its cells, so that's how the APC will recognize, and it will eat up of engulfs or phagocytize the infected cell, and then it will process the viral antigens for the next step. Okay, yeah. So the virus infects the cells and virus antigens appear on the surface, and this, right, the signal of the presence of this antigens will reach the APC, then the APC will engulf the infected cell and then process the antigens, and then now the APC will then represent this antigen for the other components of the immune cells. Okay, so what are these other components? These are the other lymphocytes, the CD4 lymphocytes. Well, I'm going to a little bit more detail today to illustrate to you that our immune cells, there are many of them, they work in a team, they have to do some specialized work. Each one of them have to do specialized work, step by step. And there's a very important condition. Okay, and that important condition is they must have enough glutathione to be able to do this. Okay, for example, so then the APC that presents the antigen, the CD4 plus lymphocytes, right? So the CD4 plus lymphocyte locks onto the APC via the antigen presented. The APC then sends the cytokine IL-12 that activates the CD4 cell to become T helper 1 cell. Right now, getting more complicated, and also to become macrophage. Remember, APC itself is specialized macrophage, so there can be more macrophages to do the work. Okay. Note, for this to proceed, the cells must have enough glutathione. Next, what happened? Then the converted cell, the CD4 cell that has turned into TH1, then activates next group of cells called the CD8 plus cell to become killer cells that recognizes the same antigen. Okay, so activation and proliferation of CD8 plus killer cells require glutathione. Okay, so that's the cellular component of our immune defense. Yeah. Okay, so for one TH1, then we activate CD8A and become killer cells. And from the name, you know that these cells will then we go and kill other infected cells, right? After activation and proliferation, killer cells recognize the virus antigen and will attack and kill more infected cells. Okay. At the same time, remember that the TH cell, after being activated by the APC, also activate the other arm of our immune defense. Also activate the B cells. TH1, or the T helper cell 1, also stimulates the B cells to produce antibodies against viruses. And this also requires glutathione. Okay, very important, right? Very important. You will appreciate then why the outcome, the final outcome of whatever is the end result of all this depends on whether you have enough glutathione or not. Okay, so both arms of our immune system require, of our adaptive immune system requires sufficient glutathione. Okay, so in summary, our immune cells work as a team against viruses, right? And they follow these steps to be able to perform their function properly. And glutathione is required here, required here, required here, required here. Okay, so without sufficient glutathione, you will not be able to mount a good cellular defense, nor a good humoral defense, right? You won't have sufficient good killer cells, you won't have sufficient antibodies produced. Okay, so you understand that? You didn't understand. No, note, this is not specific to COVID-19. It applies to all viruses. Okay, but since we are still in the COVID age, the age of COVID, after coming to 2.5 years, we're not out of it. Okay, so let's learn from the role of glutathione, the other roles of glutathione with COVID-19 as an illustration. Okay, so take COVID-19 because we're all very much aware of this. Everyone knows COVID-19 now probably more than more other viral infection, at least at the moment. So how can glutathione help protect you? You already have a basic understanding that glutathione will boost our adaptive immunity, but there are other ways glutathione play its role. Okay, right. So with COVID-19, so what do we know over the last 2.5 years about glutathione and COVID-19? We know that glutathione reduces oxidative stress. We know that glutathione reduces inflammation. We know that glutathione enhances immunity against viruses. We know that glutathione may stop viral replication. It may prevent cytokine storm, helps liquefy respiratory secretions, helps prevent abnormal blood coagulation, and protects the lungs and all major organs, all right, against damage, which means glutathione can help reduce severity of COVID-19 in many ways. Okay, it may help prevent long COVID, which is the chronic post-COVID debility syndrome, which affects many organs for many months. And now we are hearing a lot more of this long COVID. Okay, people with no COVID symptoms, they were positive with no COVID symptoms are getting long COVID. The more severe you had symptoms, you're more likely to have long COVID. Okay. And we also know that glutathione stimulates the production of many cytokines and increases the activation of and proliferation of lymphocytes, as illustrated earlier on. Now, what are cytokines? Cytokines are peptide immunomodulating signaling molecules, and they may act inside the cell, on other cells nearby, or on distant cells. And because glutathione does this, we now know that glutathione may reduce the inflammatory damage in affected cases. Glutathione is a very powerful inhibitor of the inflammatory response. Okay, I started out by saying glutathione empowers the immune cells to work properly and then protects the immune cells. Then on the viruses, prevents multiplication and reduces the virulence. Okay, now, not only glutathione reduces the harm that the virus can do, glutathione also reduces the harm caused by our own inappropriate inflammatory response. Okay, so no, it's very complicated. It's not just the virus causing harm. How we respond also can cause more harm, right? So for many of the people who died, they died from their own response. Yeah, right. Their own immune system were producing this inflammatory cytokines because of inappropriate signals and environment available at that time. Okay, and one major factor whether you produce pro-inflammatory or anti-inflammatory cytokines is how much glutathione you have. Okay, so most of the morbidity and mortality in coronavirus infections are related to massive inflammatory damage in the lungs and respiratory tract, causing respiratory distress. Lung damage in COVID-19 is due to cytokine storm caused by excess release of pro-inflammatory cytokines by the immune cells. Glutathione modulates this, all right? What does modulation mean? Modulation means if it's too much, you bring it down. If it's too little, you bring it up to normal, okay? So glutathione also promotes the release of anti-inflammatory cytokines, right? So it reduces the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines and increases the release of anti-inflammatory cytokines. So by doing that, glutathione reduces inflammation and therefore may reduce the severity of the disease and may even save lives. So with that, those of us who know the science of glutathione was not surprised that very early in the story of COVID, in April 2020, just a few months into the COVID story, right, there was a report, a small study only for 2 cases, a report on 2 cases when the doctors in America tried to treat their COVID patients with glutathione, and they were able to achieve improvement within 1 hour, right? Within 1 hour. But you don't hear many studies done on this because this is not a drug that the drug companies can make money. Everybody ignored this report, right? It's a pity, right? Because in my opinion, from knowing the many ways glutathione is involved in antiviral immunity, the researchers should be focusing on glutathione instead of the drugs, which even if they work, have severe side effects. With glutathione, we get many other benefits instead, okay? And then after that initial small report, then there were reviews done, right? Exhaustive scientific literary analysis reported in the journal 1 month later, in which it was concluded that glutathione deficiency is the most plausible explanation for the serious manifestations and death in COVID-19 patients. Okay, so not only was there a practical proof, at least in those 2 cases, that glutathione can reverse COVID disease within 1 hour, Right? A study of literature showed that it is glutathione deficiency that caused serious manifestation and death. And then another one followed. It is the glutathione depletion may have a central role in COVID-19 mortality and pathophysiology. Therefore, elevating glutathione levels in tissues may decrease the severity and mortality rates of COVID-19. This is another study done. Okay. Then a third extensive review of the literature, right? Drawing on evidence from literature, right? This demonstrates that reduced levels of glutathione is the main condition clinically associated with severe disease of COVID-19. Again and again and again, it is glutathione deficiency, right? So it connects very well with the science of glutathione and viral infection. Without sufficient glutathione, our immune cells cannot do their part, cannot play their role. Okay. And then with hindsight, we look back at who is most at risk with COVID-19. We know old age, older have higher risk, especially more than 60 years old. Then men and to women, 3 times more at risk of severe disease and death in men. Those with comorbidities, hypertension, heart disease, stroke, lung disease, diabetes, kidney disease, even obesity, right? Most people walk around obesity, they don't think they are sick, right? People with hypertension, oh, I'm on drugs. Heart disease, I'm on drugs. Stroke, I'm on drugs. I got lung disease on drugs. Diabetes on drugs. Kidney disease on drugs. Obesity, biasa. 78% of those people with severe COVID or died of COVID, 78% were obese. Okay, and you can add to that smoking and alcohol. Well, all of these are associated with having lower levels of glutathione. Okay. So having sufficient glutathione does not mean you will not get COVID-19. We know that. The studies show that it may help reduce the severity and also fatality of the disease. Vaccines are not 100% effective in preventing infection, but reduces the severity and mortality should you still get COVID-19. But having sufficient glutathione may provide protection even for those vaccinated but who are not sufficiently immune to COVID-19 virus. And many are not sufficiently immune, right? So nowadays, almost everybody who get infected are vaccinated, even boosted, even double boosted. So the conclusions from all these studies, because of the antiviral actions of glutathione, those with glutathione deficiency have a higher susceptibility for uncontrolled replication of SARS or COVID-19 virus, and thereby suffer from an increasing viral load. The severity of clinical manifestations of COVID-19 patients is determined by the degree of impaired redox homeostasis, attributable to the deficiency of reduced glutathione and increased ROS production, right? Reactive oxygen species. That means oxidative stress. The degree of glutathione deficiency correlates with the viral replication rate, and an increasing viral load exacerbates oxidative damage of the lung. The virus cannot, repeat this, I put it in red. The virus cannot actively replicate at higher levels of cellular glutathione. All right, this is not a blind statement. This is a statement derived from the studies, the reviews, okay? The virus cannot actively replicate at higher levels of cellular glutathione, resulting in lower viral loads and therefore milder clinical symptoms and faster recoveries are observed. Okay, you cannot stress more than that how important the glutathione is in fighting. This is specific to COVID-19, but as an example, right, most probably apply to other viruses too. The COVID virus poses a danger only for people with endogenous glutathione deficiency, regardless which are the factors: aging, chronic disease comorbidity, smoking, or some other factors. According to the authors of the studies quoted earlier on, all those other factors actually is because they cause glutathione deficiency or they are associated with glutathione deficiency. Now, since the antiviral effect of glutathione is non-specific, there is reason to believe that glutathione is also active against the COVID variants. The restoration of glutathione levels would be a promising approach for the prevention and management of COVID-19, right? But apart from us, nobody seems to be interested, unfortunately. And the same may be true for other viruses too, as many previous studies had shown, right? We quoted influenza virus, HIV, right? HSV, Sendai virus, okay? So maybe it may apply for monkeypox virus, right? Or catpox virus, or whatever pox virus you may have, because glutathione action is non-specific. Yeah? It empowers our immune system to fight these viruses. Okay, and be prepared for another round of vaccinations. On top of your 5th, 6th, 7th dose. Okay, so with that scenario, right, it is good to boost our glutathione levels for added protection from not only the ongoing COVID infection now, there's also a surge in influenza, right, cases. I know this because the influenza vaccines in the clinic always runs out, so people are frantically getting vaccinated. Okay, so why should we boost our glutathione? Glutathione protects against viral infections in many ways, many types of viruses, and in many ways. And in this period of uncertainty with the threat of COVID-19 and now influenza and monkeypox, then we should ensure that we have sufficient levels of glutathione. Unfortunately, dietary glutathione is poorly absorbed. And the most efficient way to boost our glutathione by oral supplementation is to take glutathione precursors, which boost the body's endogenous production of glutathione. And the most efficient glutathione precursor is ribocysteine, which is trademarked as ribosyn. Okay, so why should we really be concerned? It is because not only with age, you're more predisposed to COVID-19 and influenza, many other viruses, but the level, the decline of glutathione with age also predisposes us to other health problems, because with oxidative stress, then other systems, not just immune system is affected, other systems are affected. The declining levels of glutathione will cause oxidative stress and all the damage that
music.
But enzyme also reduces our immunity, reduces our detox capability, reduces our signaling molecule capacity, etc., etc. Okay, and glutathione levels decreases by 10 to 15% every decade. Okay, so taking the 20-year-old as the starting point, because after 20, then the levels start coming down. So that should be the estimated level of glutathione you should have on the average, depending on your age. And the lower level reflects if you're not healthy. The higher levels reflects you're healthy with more than average glutathione. And if your life can be described by many of these factors, then you can expect to be on the lower end. So the implication of low glutathione is that most diseases are associated with glutathione depletion. Many studies have shown this. And in fact, more than 100 diseases by now have been studied and found to be associated with having low levels of glutathione. And you can add COVID-19 to that now. Okay. Again, all right, you should add boost your glutathione for added protection, not only against virus diseases, but all the other diseases that will be added as you grow old. So how to increase glutathione? Remember, glutathione taken orally is not well absorbed. You need to supplement with glutathione precursor. And the most important precursor is cysteine. Precursors mean the three amino acids that make up glutathione, the glutamic acid, cysteine, and glycine. But you just need to concentrate on cysteine because glutamic acid and glycine are abundant in the diet and are available unless your diet is severely protein deficient. So the most important precursor is cysteine, which is the least available and also most fragile amino acid. And the best source is ribosine. So what is ribosine? It is a patented nutrient, D-ribose L-cysteine, shortened to ribocysteine, patented as ribosine, and it provides cysteine, which is easily absorbed, stable, and easily absorbed and utilized by the body to make glutathione. And the D-ribose, which is used to stabilize the glutathione, is not just an inert, useless stabilizer. It is, in fact, used by the body to make ATP, right? Adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy-carrying molecule. And the synthesis of glutathione also requires ATP, right? So when you take ribosine, you get the cysteine to boost, to manufacture glutathione, and you get the energy, the battery provided to boost that synthesis. That explains why ribosine is 300% better than NAC, which is the second best precursor, right, in boosting glutathione. Summary: glutathione is a tripeptide with many important functions essential for life, good health, and longevity. As an immune booster and modulator, it keeps our immune system in a healthy, balanced state, optimized to fight viral and other infections, and free from autoimmunity. Its antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and immune-boosting functions have been shown in studies to be useful against viral infections and viral pneumonias. Glutathione is produced by our body, but the production declines rapidly after age 20. This predisposes the body to aging, infections, not just viral infections, many types of infections, autoimmunity, many diseases and cancers, and according to several studies, to COVID-19 as well. We can boost and restore our glutathione to healthy levels. The best way is to take glutathione precursors. The most efficient precursor available is ribocysteine, trademarked as ribosine, which is a product of the research of Max International, and is the main ingredient in our products, Max1 and Cellgevity. So this is Max1, 100% ribosine, and this is Cellgevity, ribosine plus 12 other ingredients to boost the function of glutathione and also have their own health benefits, which makes Cellgevity an anti-aging powerhouse. So thank you very much.